What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another phenomenal episode of the Hero Front Podcast. I'm here at home. Spring break is starting. Got the kiddos here. Wife just got back from her trip, so all is well. And just the other day, Team Eglin had the extremely incredible fun time with Chief Abby Scott of the Space Force. The guy is next level. He is built different, truly, and he's such a special person. After he fired us up at Team Eglin, got the whole base going, I got to hang out with him at Black Rifle Coffee in Niceville, Florida. Shout out to them for letting us use their space and have a personal one-on-one conversation. And it's one of the best episodes I've ever had. And it's not because of me, it's because of my guest. So let's talk a little bit about Chief Abby Scott. He's the Chief of Enlisted Force Development at Headquarters United States Space Force, joining us for an enlightening conversation. Now, throughout this episode, Chief Scott shares invaluable insights into his personal philosophy on resilient leadership. Y'all, we get the blueprint in depth. It's next level, I'm telling you. So get ready for some real talk about leadership, because Chief Scott's bringing the wisdom on how being real, caring, and working together can make all the difference in the world for your success. You know, it's counterintuitive when we come up, what can I do? What's good for me? What looks good on my record? When in reality, helping those around you leads to such a greater success for yourself. So it feels counterintuitive going after that at first. But we talk about that philosophy and how helping others in our environment really propelled us, especially him, to this insanely high position within the Space Force. So we'll be diving in how to handle really tough situations. So I don't hold back. Okay, I asked some tough questions for him. He talks about how he grew stronger through these challenges and the importance of having mentors and friends who truly got your back. Hey, kids. Chief Scott's got, I want to say 6 children, so my kids screaming in the background is kind of fitting for this episode. So plus we're going to share some stories about finding your way and bouncing back when life throws you a tremendous curveball. It happens to the best of us. Some of it breaks us. Some of it shapes us. And he talks a lot about his own personal experiences with those curveballs. So stick around, because Chief Scott's got some fresh ideas on how to shake up leadership education. He's got the inside scoop on where PME is going, and it's going to change drastically. So get that coffee, get that water, and hang out with us for an hour at Black Rifle. Thank you so much for joining us. My house is about to fall down, so let's get after it.
Welcome to the Hero Front Podcast, the 2022 Veteran Podcast of the Year winner. I'm your host, Josh White, and I talk with heroes around the world to inspire, educate, and to remind you that you are not alone. My own personal journey was marked by struggles like depression and alcoholism, which led me to almost lose my life. Now, after years of working on myself, I'm now blessed to say I have an abundance of pride and purpose. And I have made it my mission to share and spread these lessons by having insightful interviews with inspiring individuals, emphasizing trust, transparency, and meaningful conversation to drive positive action in our lives. Above all, I aim to inspire you to unleash your inner hero. We all have it in us, and it's time to bring it to the front lines of our lives. Let's get after it. But I did want to thank you for coming out, getting us just hyped.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it. Like, the pictures look like AI.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Like, to see that many people in uniform hyped again, I feel like I used to see it a lot more when I was a young airman. There's a lot more people,
Sure.
less cameras around, maybe,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen a crowd quite that hyped in a long time, to the point where when I looked at the photos, I was like, someone's gonna think this is AI generated.
Right? No, it was good. It was awesome. You know, it's funny, they asked me to come in, right, and kind of in a pep rally like atmosphere, get
Right.
the crowd fired up. But then they picked me up from my room at 6:15 in the morning. And I was like, hey, listen, I don't know who's trying to be hyped at 6:30 in the morning.
No one.
So, you know, wanted to do something a little bit different, but no, I'm glad it worked out, because yeah, it was dope. It was a little chaos there for a while, but it worked out.
It woke up everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed when you saw me this morning, I was like, hey, like I am not a morning person.
Oh, me either.
Like when people see me in the morning, they're like, are you okay? Like, what's wrong? I'm like, just give me like an hour.
And I don't drink coffee.
Right. And sorry for taking you.
No, it's fine. I just won't drink it. Yeah, it's not that I'm not anti-coffee. Right. It just doesn't taste good to me. So,
right.
But So, but I don't know. I wake up and I'm fine. But I'm not an early riser. Mm-hmm. I'm not the guy that just wakes. No. But once I'm going, I'm going. I'm good.
And everything you said, just like I can't wait to share it with everyone because everything you said, it really resonated with me. Like it connected to feelings and thoughts and stories. That I've had. Like as if you were there next to me. You know what I mean? Like that's how it felt.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm glad I'm not crazy. Like, 'cause this guy is like saying everything that like I've been wanting to say.
Oh, appreciate it.
For a long time. Like especially like the authenticity and actually caring.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Right.
We get so in the weeds with like AFIs and rules and this and the fine print that like we forget we're people.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're treating other people like they're not a person.
That's right.
And that's just not the right way to go about treating someone.
That's right. That's right.
So that really spoke to my heart. And I'll tell you we've all had the toxic supervisor, right? Which we learned a lot from. And I had one that was like just anti-Air Force. He was a leader and he was all about business. That's all. That was his mantra.
Yeah.
Hey, stop taking it personal. This is a business.
Yeah.
That's all this is. This is actually a business.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this annoying me so much when he says that? It just pisses me off.
That's right.
And I was like, you know what? I know why. Because we didn't join a business.
That's right.
That's why it pissed me off.
Yeah.
Like, stop saying that, man. Like, none of us are here. This ain't Best Buy.
That's right.
Like,
well, here, I'll take it a step further. Actually, the reason people join, actually, to me, isn't as relevant as the reason they stay. Right. The reason that anyone joins is all good and noble. Right. Whether you joined because you were broke, you were homeless, you're living at your mom's house, because you were failing out of college before you had a family, whatever your reason for joining, great reason, right? Hey, you were 18, your dad served in the military, all great. But why you stay with us matters.
That's called the aha moment.
That's right. That's right.
The all-in moment.
That's right. And so some people did join because they just needed something to do, and it's a job, and they see it like a business, right?
Right.
And sure, that's fine, right? But it doesn't make them necessarily the most effective leaders, right? Because then it's transaction, right?
It's just anyone can do that.
That's right. And we say it, right? We are all in the people business. And so when you see leaders that don't understand people, it makes you wonder, right? Like how they got as far as they did. So I can certainly understand that. I think we've all experienced people like that. Yeah.
So and you spoke a lot about stuff like that and kind of the a more human approach to it.
Sure. Yeah.
That I just really appreciated. So thanks for sharing all that, for waking up, as the sun was coming up over Eglin. and pouring your heart and soul into that talk. And then even doing this podcast with me, I heard you had all these other, they're like, oh, make this flyer, do that. And I'm like, wait a second. What else does he have to do here? Then I felt bad.
Me busy. No, I
was like, good. It's just a testament to your character, sure. Because you had all these other engagements lined up that I was unaware of. I thought you were done today.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, they kept me busy. And tomorrow's going to be actually even busier, but it's good.
Right.
It's good. Yeah, I love coming down.
So that's when I learned you're doing this other stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, he said yes to seeing me after hours.
Yeah.
And didn't even mention any of the other stuff he has.
It's all good. It's all good.
Thank you. Seriously.
No, absolutely, man.
So I want to start with that. Now, I also start with random questions.
Okay.
I try to ask stuff that people just don't typically ask you.
Okay.
And so the first question, I feel like you've clearly had good and bad leaders.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right? You clearly have, because you talk a lot, you have some folks that talk about man, I had this supervisor, he did this and that. But your approach, there's a both.
Oh, yeah.
There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I usually ask who your biggest mentor is. But in this case, I'm going to ask, what was that leader like? What was the situation that was negative in your opinion that taught you the most?
Man, I've got a couple.
Okay.
I've got a couple. I was in a situation where I was a young senior NCO, moving fast, trying to do the right things, right, take care of people. And I was put in a situation to where I had a senior leader within my organization whose our values just didn't line up, right? And I try and give people the benefit of the doubt, right? And I like to believe that people don't wake up wanting to do harm and do bad things. But I tell you, man, it was a struggle, really trying to see eye to eye, right, with this individual, because our values were just so far apart to where my default was, hey, what's the right thing to do? How do we take care of people? And I felt like this person's values were the complete opposite, right? And there was a situation, right, in which, there was decisions that were made in which I had to stand firm on my decision to support my NCO. And it wound up costing me a little bit from the standpoint of there were perceived, I call them trinkets and toys, but awards or recognition to where I felt like I was potentially deserved, and other leaders felt that way, but I was kind of passed over for, which I wasn't so worried about that, but it was the why I was passed over, because there was never any good reasoning. And so what I did, though, was I used it as motivation, right? So this was the last year, it might have been the last or second to last year of testing for senior.
Okay.
Right? To where before, just when there was no test, it was,
right.
Now it's just, I think Air Force just does promotion board only, no test, right? So this was the last or second to last year where you could test as well.
You still had some skin in the game.
Yeah, I still had some skin in the game
right.
from that standpoint,
yeah.
right? And so, they had went through, and I wound up PCSing that summer, right? And so I wound up not getting pushed for, wing stratification, which to me, I felt it bothered me because I was known in the way I'd done a lot of things, and it didn't bother me from the standpoint of I didn't get a wing stratification. I wasn't pushed for a wing stratification, right? Had I made it in the wing commander, again, using the old rules. This isn't about the awards. It's not about the stratification. It's about how I perceived my value to the ecosystem and how it was actually being perceived by others, right? And so I use it as motivation, and I wound up scoring like a 93 on the PDG. But here's the crazy part. So I wound up getting promoted. My board score was still really high, which was nuts, right? And I think I was the only Master Sergeant Cyber that made senior without a stratification that year.
You just mic drop, like you did it.
Yeah.
You did it. You took it into your own hands, and
That's right. That's right. And so to me, it was like look what I did. What I will say though is that it actually taught me something different. It didn't teach me exactly what maybe it seems like obvious. It wasn't about showing them. It was actually about showing myself, right? And how they view me, how they perceive me, right? Doesn't impact my character. It doesn't impact who I really am. It doesn't impact my ability to serve. And it also doesn't impact how the board or how others potentially see me, right? And have looked at my records. And so, whereas I had doubt, right, because of the way this senior leader had perceived me, right? And it did take a kind of a hit, right, in my confidence to a degree. And so making senior my first look without a stratification, right, being the only one, it actually taught me that, man, it's not necessarily about all the rules and trying to check all the boxes. Man, if you show up and keep doing what's right, things will typically play out in your favor. So that was a tough situation. The other situation that was tough was I want to be in a squadron where our chief got fired.
Dang.
It was tough.
That is tough.
It was rough. I won't go into the details, but the chief got fired, and I was supposed to go off to another position, right, go do other great things. And the commander and the higher level chief said, no, you're going to stay, take over the squadron. Well, because of what had transpired, not only was I taking over the squadron, I was taking over a squadron that was rocked by the firing of a chief and for what he was fired over. So then we had a new commander that came in, and we had to essentially rebuild the squadron's morale, trust in the organization, right? Luckily, I had been kind of a consistent, right, leader within the organization, so they trusted me. But we had to create an environment in which they could then trust, right, that the leadership team was not going to do them harm, right? And so because of the example that chief, right, portrayed, it definitely let me know that I no longer, one, definitely couldn't follow in his footsteps, but it challenged me to be better than what I had intended to have to be, right? Because we typically see the bar and we say, okay, well, I can meet that expectation. But I hadn't looked at it from the standpoint of just stepping into a squadron superintendent role. I looked at it in the standpoint of stepping into this role and then having to excel to rebuild and be better than my predecessor, who outranked me, had more, you know what I mean, all the things.
Right.
And so again, two examples of where two kind of senior leaders had failed, but it allowed me to be a better version of me. And I don't want to take this as in spite of, it's not that. This is all internally driven, right? To where I had to, pull myself up by my bootstraps or whatever analogy you want to use, but I had to look inside myself and say, no. This is your time to not let other things define you or the situation, right, or the position.
So you were nervous going into
100%. 100%. If you're not nervous going into a position you never, like, it's probably something wrong.
Right. Could you speak on anything during that time that you got really right and that you were like, man, I'm never going to forget this, like an approach or was there anything that clicked that you didn't really use before?
Yep. Keep the important things important.
Oh.
So here's what was also going on at that time. My wife had got picked up for Sergeant Major, and so she was going to the Sergeant Major Academy, right? So I was going to be a single parent, right, for essentially 10 months or so, right? 5 kids at the time, 7 to this new position, all the things. It's very easy to get stressed, overworked, right? And during COVID.
Oh,
right? In an AOC. Right.
I'm public health, so you say COVID, I want to just run out the door.
That's right. So all the things, right? And so what I learned was I couldn't do everything, right? And just running a million miles an hour, right, wasn't going to work. And so I still had 5 kids. I was single parenting, right? Stepping into a new squadron superintendent gig, trying to rebuild a squadron, doing all the things, right? But I had to keep the important things important. So at the end of the day, even though I had these work expectations, I had 5 kids that didn't care that work was stressful or hard or trying to do this. They just needed dad, right? And so I had to make sure that I was in a constant state of prioritizing, hey, what's important, right? So it would be times where I'd say, hey, ma'am, I got to go. I got to go. We can talk about it tonight, you know what I mean? If you want, but I got to go, right? I got to go pick the kids up. I got to go do this. And it was such a blessing because it, again, showed me, man, you can do it. Like if you would have wrote the script out, right? Hey, she's going to get fired. You're going to step in the AOC during COVID. Your wife's going to be gone for a year. You're going to single parent. You're going to have to dual hat squadron superintendent and ops superintendent. Like you list all the things. I'd be like, no, I'm good. Yep, I'll pass. Right? but when you do it and you accomplish that, you're like, oh yeah, well, if I can do that, like, what are we talking about?
Right.
The rest is easy. But you also learn to lean on your team.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to.
Just like the Navy SEALs.
That's right.
The teams that fail are the teams that don't have that.
100%.
They're each on their own in their own little
100%.
missions. They're not communicating.
That's right.
They will fail every time.
100%. Teamwork is such an often, in my opinion, often misconstrued aspect of leadership. Because when we talk about leadership, it's normally from an I perspective, right? Oh, leadership, how can I be a better leader? And if you don't understand team dynamics and how to be a good teammate, you're never going to be an effective leader. Like never. And so we value the leader. We value leadership traits and principles. I'm not saying we don't value team principles. We just don't emphasize them enough.
I would argue to say promotion-wise, a lot of people have certain things on their mind. And I mean, I've ran into it myself where it's like, I could I'm not running the event, right?
Yeah.
So already it's not looking good for me on paper.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm also helping a peer look better.
Sure. Yeah.
There's these things that we think about. We don't often say it.
Yeah.
I've come to the conclusion that I'm helping the peers. Like that brings me joy. So I'm just going to do that. But I can't, I didn't always think that way. I was like, holy crap, like I'm helping this person over me.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of little things like that that can sometimes drive a wedge in that.
I think that it's first of all, I think it's natural, right? Like there's nothing wrong with you. That's a natural human way. Self-preservation, wanting to be the best. Like those are all good things in of itself. When it becomes negative is when you're doing it at the expense of someone else's success, right? To be driven is great. To be competitive is great. To be motivated is great. Those are great things. When you're doing it at the expense of the team, when you're doing it at the expense of someone else's success, then it's toxic.
It's toxic. Yeah.
It's toxic. It's not just bad. It's toxic.
Right.
I was blessed. Same situation. I'm talking about same time period. Right. I had a teammate. My first sergeant was now Chief Master Sergeant Deon Taylor. Right. Awesome. There wasn't a single day where him and I were competing. There wasn't a single day that him and I weren't on the same page as far as wanting each other to grow and be better. Right. And we were both pretty strong senior master sergeants, you know what I mean, within the community, within Joint Base Hickam, right? Like we were doing great things, but we were always there we could always close that door and say, hey man, I just need to vent, right? I just got this situation, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't even squadron superintendent first sergeant, it was just man to man, right? And we still do that, right? And it's important to be able to have, I call it that tribe, right? That you can do those things with, because you can't do it all by yourself.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely. That all clicked for me in honor guard. Like,
oh yeah.
I had the tribe. I just got very lucky and blessed, like to have an amazing team of airmen, amazing peers, an amazing OIC who has done honor guard in the past.
Yeah.
Like I had everything, although it was challenging and the program was very much in bad shape. I had all the support and the tools that I needed. And once I saw that all come together, because I couldn't do it on my own, I was like, hey, you're from ammo. I need your help fixing that freaking, because although they're blanks, they're still treated like real ammo.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They still could hurt someone or scare the hell out of them. So, and the rifles, like you could put real bullets in those rifles. So like it is a very Loctite
it's a
armory.
Weapon. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I could spend weeks trying to fix that, or I could let y'all, trust in y'all, and give you the time to fix that for me, since you know the rules. Then our comms went out, had a comm guy, hey, come over here, man, I need your help. Like our comms are screwed up. Comm people are like genius. Like if you let them get creative, my God, they go nuts with it. Like we ended up having like a whole security system, and like from like they got from the gym, and then, like it was amazing. It was amazing seeing like each person bring something to the table. Vehicles, got my vehicle maintenance guys.
That's right.
Hey, we need more vehicles. I don't know how to get more. How do we even do that?
That's right.
I didn't have to spend hours on it. I sent them on it. They figured it out.
Yeah, team dynamics, man.
It's unbelievable.
100%.
Never seen anything like it. Like that was such a light bulb moment for me.
Yeah.
And then I put my team in for all these things. I started winning for the first time in my career. I attribute all of it to that collaboration.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There's no way I would have had the success I did without that collaboration. I would have got hung up on the armory.
Yeah.
And then
things that don't matter.
You know, I got written up and hung up on that, and never really got to grow and do all the things I was able to do. So it was pretty amazing.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
All right. Second question, random question. I spoke with Chief Wright at AFSA. Can you believe we're coming up on a year since then?
No,
I can't believe it.
Yeah, time flies.
Like it's getting there. It's close.
That's right.
And I can't remember exactly how I worded it. I think I said something like, who inspires you, or who do you look up to? And he said, your name. Why is that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he needs better friends. I think that I remember. I think you asked him, what new friendship, has he made over the last year, right? Man, that's a friendship that I for one, it's a friendship, right, which is awesome. And just like most airmen, who were, senior NCOs during his tenure at SimSAF, right? He became this, in some ways, almost like a caricature, right, of leadership, right? Because he had this esteem, and he was enlisted Jesus, right, and all these things. And so it's very, I think, reasonable, right, for you to look at a person and almost look at them in a way that you would give them reverence. You know what I mean? Now, my natural style is I don't give any man reverence, right?
Okay.
I'll give them deference for sure.
I don't know what either of those words mean.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's
just not my. Well, I just never used them.
No. So I won't. There's a level of respect, right? That you get positionally. But what I have learned with the friendship that him and I've had is that I respect him even more as a man.
Right.
And so why he feels this way. I think that I think a little bit different than some folks, right? I think in a lot of ways him and I are similar. We're both confident individuals, right? We're both authentic.
Mm-hmm.
We're both we show up as who we are, right, in every environment. But we're also a lot different, in some other ways as well too. I really respect. I'm a big thinker. I've always got big, grandiose ideas and boom, boom, right. And he has this amazing way of being able to take them and be like, "Hey, man, look. This is what you're not thinking about. Yeah, you can't do that because this, right?" He gives me the realness of it, of things that I hadn't thought about it. It's like, oh, yeah, that's great perspective, right?
Those are great friends to have.
Those are great friends to have. I'll add on to it a little bit more. I've moved to the DMV area about 1.5 years ago, and it's the first time in my adult life that I've been around a group, right, of men that I can, look at as peers, as friends, as mentors, right, as confidants, right? Because it's not just, Khalid, it's also Todd Simmons. It's also Shane Pilgrim. It's also Rod Bryant, right? Like we've got a great group of guys. And, golf is a great connector with us, but we're also like-minded men, right, who legitimately want to support one another, right? I can call them up at any point in time. They can call me up at any point in time, right? And for me, it's really the first time that I've been around that many men that I can respect on so many different levels.
Wow.
And it does become like a tribe, right?
Yeah.
And having a tribe is good. Tribalism can turn negative, right? but having a tribe, right, that you can lean into, oh man.
It's a blessing.
It is such a blessing, right? And what I love about the tribe that I have is it's genuine, it's authentic, it's not transactional, it's not, well, I do a thing for you, now you do a thing for me. We do things for each other, but it's because we genuinely want to do things for each other, right? I don't do a thing to expect some return, and so on and so forth. And that's a genuine level of friendship and investment into the tribe that pays more dividends than any money could have, that any other real aspect of life outside of God and your family can really have from a relationship standpoint. And I would say you need tribes, right. good ones, right? And I'm saying this completely from a positive standpoint, right? I'm not talking about negative aspects of tribalism, right? But you need to have your tribe.
Yeah.
You need to have that cohort, right, of individuals that are making you better. If every room you walk into, you're the smartest person in the room, like you're in the wrong rooms.
Right.
Like you're in the wrong rooms.
It might help your ego a little bit.
Sure. but that's fleeting.
It's fleeting.
Right?
Yeah.
You need to expand the rooms that you're in.
You have to be humble to do that.
Yeah.
I would say there was a time in my life where I couldn't do that. Like when I was most insecure I've ever been in my life was when I had a drinking problem because I wasn't growing.
Yeah, sure.
And I was angry all the time. Yeah. And I was a hater. I was basically drinking haterade every night.
Yeah.
Hating myself, hating everyone doing better than me.
Yeah.
Just beating myself up.
Yeah.
I had zero confidence to be a part of a group like that. It took a lot of self-growth, proving to myself what I'm capable. It took a lot of work to let those barriers down to even allow myself to be friends with someone like that.
That's right. But you said it, hating yourself.
Right.
Like that's where it starts. Mm-hmm. If you love yourself, if you know your self-worth, if you know your value, it's so easy to be humble.
It is.
It's so right, because it's not, you can be competitive without constantly competing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I legitimately want to see my friends do amazing. And not so that I can then be amazing through osmosis, but because it's going to happen, right? Because I legitimately care for them, and I want them to, just like my family. I want my family to be amazing, right? Because you care for people. You know, it's the key part though is you got to know how to love yourself, right?
It takes work. It does take work. It takes effort. Some people it comes a lot more easier than others.
Sure, yeah.
You know, depending on their background, their experiences. But it's such an important thing to work towards because it opens up your heart to what's out there.
You know, one thing I don't talk about a lot, but it's something I really, really value, and it's authenticity, right? You know, I'm me, right? And I'm me in every room I walk into, right? And I walk into a room as my authentic self. Now, you ain't got to like it. You ain't got to love it. Now, I'm going to be appropriate in whatever room I walk into, right? Yeah, I may show you a slightly different persona when I'm talking to an ALS class versus talking to my kids versus talking to a 4-star general, but they're still authentic versions of who I am, right? And authenticity goes a long way because when you know who a person really is, you can trust that person. And then I can be real with you. I can be honest with you because then you can trust me.
Right.
And that's when the relationship starts to grow. But when you don't show up as your most authentic version of yourself, I don't know who I'm getting. Right. And
the person themselves doesn't know.
That's right. That's right.
They're just going off their emotions of
100%.
the day. Or, you know, their ego pulls them that way. Their guilt pulls them the other.
Yeah.
So they're kind of all over the place.
100%. You know, that's why things like self-discovery are so important.
Right.
Right. Self-realization. You know, who are you? You know, a lot of the books and things that I read are really about that, right? Trying to get to know who is Abi, right? Because if I don't know who Abi is, I'm just presenting the personas that you want to see, right? But now you know, because I know who I am, that when you have a conversation, you're having a conversation with me. Right. You know what I mean? And I think that's important.
That's amazing. I don't even know what I asked you. We're just
I don't remember what the question was.
It was Chief Wright.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see how that turns into like, okay, so I will say I love that I'm part of AFSA.
Yeah.
You know, Todd Simmons like really believed in me and the other people on social media. He got our foot in the door.
Yeah.
He did. That year, it was like 2 years ago. Got our foot in the door. It was one in San Antonio.
Yeah.
We just showed up and just started, like, you know, and it was all because of his belief in us and bringing us together, which was so cool. It changed my life. Because then the next year, AFSA's like, hey, where's those podcasts? Like, what?
Right.
Like thinking that like they brought us, then they're like, yeah, Todd invited them. Yeah. Like, do you want them back? And he's like, yeah. So like it really created like a thing. Flash forward to now, I'm on the AFSA HQ team. I'm like an intern, like I said. You know, I'm running around doing all the things, which is just a blessing. Like I never ever thought and when I saw Todd this last time, I was like, I just gotta thank you, man. And of course he was like, that's all you, man. He's like, you want something and if you feel it, like you're gonna get it. Like he just fired me up on the spot. I was like, man, just a little.
You know, Todd, man, you know, and me and Khalif have an amazing relationship. Me and Todd have an amazing relationship. You know, Todd, he's got to have more than 24 hours in his day.
Like, or just more versions, it's clones.
Or he's figured out time travel.
Right.
Or he's like Ant-Man and he, like, I don't know, right? Because he gets so much done, but he's a genuine, humble, caring, like legit wants to see everyone win. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's rare. Like that is rare.
It is.
You know, because he doesn't have to do those things.
He didn't get anything out of it.
Right. That's right.
There is no benefit to him.
That's right.
He didn't take credit for it.
That's right.
All our lives are changed, but for where he's sitting, it didn't really change his life.
Here's when you think about it, this is the crazy part. Well, that's how everyone should be. Right? Like that's just how everyone
the world
should
would be amazing.
That's right.
Everything would just be great.
That's right. If there was no ulterior motive, right? If I do a thing for you and there's no ulterior motive, right? Well, that's just called friendship, right? Like that's just how it's supposed to be,
right?
But yeah, that's just Todd, right? And anybody you talk to will say, "Oh yeah, I mean that's just Todd," right? Those are the type of people you want in your circle.
I didn't get to my question yet.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
You noticed.
Yeah.
So I love that I'm a part of AFSA now.
Yeah.
And that I'm also a podcaster because it's opened my eyes to a whole different group of people that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I call it visiting Mount Olympus.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You hear the lore.
That's right.
You see it every so often.
Yeah.
But you don't truly, but I get to visit it sometimes and go into your world and see how you interact, how these people that you work for decades with.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I want everyone to see that.
Yeah.
Because it's so heartwarming to see this end result, this end product after all these years.
Yeah.
And the family that you have created is inspiring. And that's why I want everyone to go to the summit. Like, I'm like, y'all, it will change your whole perspective on everything. It will be like you lift this veil.
That's right.
And so my question is, at the top where you're at, the things that the people that you've interacted with, what from when you were a junior airman to where you're at now, what has been the most enlightening part of that journey? Something that you did not know then that you now know where you're sitting.
It's funny you say that. Literally what you just said. Access matters. Access matters. Having access to senior leader perspectives, to the thoughts and ideas of those that know so much more than you. Having what we call, seat at the table. Right. That stuff matters because there's wicked problems out there that you don't even know someone's talking about, let alone solving. Right.
That's scary.
Yeah. There's wicked problems you don't even know exist. And having that access, it matters because it just broadens your perspective, opens up your aperture, right? And then you can insert yourself and say, oh, well, now what do I think about it? But you don't have an opinion on things you don't even know exist.
Right. Yeah. I never thought of it that way.
So AFSA, I think that's where AFSA is beautiful because it gives you access to senior enlisted leader perspectives you would never get anywhere else.
Right.
You're never going to get that anywhere else. Like what event is a staff sergeant going to get access to the senior leader perspectives that you'll get at AFSA?
Did you hear the term that I coined? The Super Bowl of the Air Force?
Oh, no, I didn't.
That's what I call it.
Sure, yeah.
They even use that now.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you why it had an impact on me. I'm sure other people could say the same. Is because when you're stuck in that frozen middle, the day-to-day grind sometimes, your world gets very small.
That's right.
Your world is like this.
Yeah.
Right? And when I got to meet y'all, I could not believe how much that y'all care. I was blown away by it. I've never met folks like you before that care so much, that put your heart and soul, your life into this. Yeah. That got my buy-in even more.
Yeah.
Because I now know you exist and I know what you're trying to get after.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say to the point you made. For let's say the staff sergeant, the tech sergeant, Air Force, Space Force that's at work, that's nugging away, doing the hard work. I don't know that I need them to know all the things. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have larger perspectives. I'm not saying that they shouldn't understand the direction that the Air Force or Space Force is going on. I'm not saying that. But that's the worker that's executing the mission and leading as the first line supervisor on the front lines, right? And I need them to be laser focused, right, on that task. right? Like, because there's no other entity that's doing that. Right. And there's no other entity that's leading the entities that are doing that.
Right.
Now, here's where, with that work, I do need to provide you perspectives on the why.
Absolutely.
Here's where we, I think, sometimes mess up from a strategic messaging standpoint. We provide information. We did a great job providing information. Here's a release. Here's the new thing. Hey, new release from AFA, AFSA. Hey, here's what's going on. Those things provide you information and updates. Well, that doesn't help you, because what you actually need is meaning. They just provide you information. What you're looking for is meaning. Because as the frontline supervisor, you need to translate that to your team. But you can't do that without meaning.
Absolutely.
Information in and of itself with no meaning is useless, because then you're left to translate it, right? So you need like the cipher code text that goes with it, right? That you can overlay. Oh, this is why. Right now, how much will it change your day-to-day? I don't know. That's on the individual, right? But what I will say is that, man, when you give people meaning, well, that's synonymous with purpose. And I think we know how valued purpose is.
It's very valuable.
And so, events like AFSA help us provide meaning, right?
Absolutely.
It allows us to translate in plain language. Hey, here's why we're going this direction and why. Here's why we're doing it. This is why it's important. Right.
Absolutely.
One of the beauties of AFSA as well too is that we have the multiple other leadership conferences going on. We have First Sergeant Worldwide, the MTLs have their conference, recruiters have their so on and so forth. So you've got all of these different perspectives in there as well that are now getting the same meaning as the tech sergeant that's on the flight line, as the sergeant that's the defender at the gate, right? That they're getting the same, and now they can translate it in their communities where they're going to get to interact with airmen and guardians as well. Right.
Definitely.
That's the beauty of AFSA. It's that access, right?
Right.
But because that access is giving you the opportunity to provide meaning to the things that you're doing.
That's beautiful. And I'm fired up for this next one now.
Like,
I'm already thinking about it. It's going to be in Houston this year.
That's right.
Yeah. I've never been to H-Town.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
So listen, H-Town is dope.
Is it?
But you just stay downtown during the host.
I'm sure wherever they pick, they always pick great. They always pick like the best spot. My favorite though is San Antonio, just the Riverwalk right there. Like I haven't seen it.
San Antonio location is a great location.
I haven't seen that since I was in basic, and I actually lived there when I was like 7 and 8.
Yeah.
So to like go back to where I was, my grandparents have since passed, and to go there again was like, just I just walked around by myself for hours, just reminiscing. It was amazing.
Yeah. That's gonna be great.
So I'm sure wherever they picked, it's going to be like the coolest spot in the area.
Keith and his team always pick good locations, so
they do.
No worries there.
And they work their butts off.
Oh yeah.
You don't see it.
Yeah.
They don't even want me telling you this. I got the insider scoop. They work very hard for everybody. I got one bonus question for you. That's just kind of a fun question.
Sure. Yeah.
Once you've been in long enough, I feel like you start trying to guess the next chief master sergeant of the Air Force. So
man. Okay.
I never hear it talked about, but now that I've been in a while, with my friends and my peers, we're trying to guess with who we know is going to be the next one. Do you guys do that at your level?
For Chief Master Sergeant, Space Force or Air Force or just in general? Both?
Both. Let's go both.
Of course.
You're having those talks?
Of course we do. We do the guesswork, right? We're humans too.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. So, when it was time for, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. Now, listen, I'm not in the know for all things Air Force, right? And there's some phenomenal candidates out there, right? And Chief Floss is going to do amazing things. I will say, me personally, I love the fact that it was Chief Flossie as a guardian, because he was the AFMC command chief, right? And there was already a relationship there with the Space Force because they're the servicing MAGCOM for airmen supporting Space Force.
Right.
And so I'd already had a couple meetings with him when he was AFMC command chief. And I will tell you, we have the opportunity right now to really bring the DAF concept together in a magic way. So with Chief Flossie, Chief Bentavania, Chief Balkovar, right, as his...
That's Eglin All-Star right there.
Eglin All-Star, right? But before that, she was at Peterson Schriever, right, Space Base Delta 1 with Guardians,
wow,
right? And so like there's just nothing but magic, right?
The connections
that can happen.
Like
if we don't get it right now, like we're really messing something
right,
up, right?
Absolutely.
And so there's nothing but an amazing opportunity ahead of us, right, to really create some synergy between the Air Force and the Space Force with those senior enlisted leaders right at the helm. And so I'm excited, like legitimately excited.
That is really cool.
And so it's going to be great. But as far as guessing, yeah, I mean, we all do it.
Okay, so you guys do like,
sure.
Oh, you think it's gonna be that person?
Yeah.
Who did they call you?
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm in the no. Nobody asked me my opinion or anything, right? But yeah.
I assume they pick the person based on what's needed the most at this time. I don't know. I'm guessing here. I feel like that, like, what do we need right now?
Sure,
because each one of y'all have you have a niche expertise.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure,
Your
sure.
backgrounds are very different.
Yeah.
And so I would assume, what do we need now? Who has that background is part of the conversation.
The great part about it is it's a good problem to have when you're picking from nothing but amazing chiefs. Right, to be the next whatever, right? That's a good problem to have.
It is,
and so, that's one of the things that on the Space Force side as well too, right? Chief Bentivani is going to do amazing things. We're right now trying to build our bench, right, and invest and develop deliberately, right? We're so new, like we're only 4 years old.
That's crazy,
right? We're only 4 years old.
Part of history.
That's right. And so, we're deliberately trying to have the programs in place to be able to build the bench, right, for not just the SimCIF 3s, but for SimCIF 10, right? And it starts now, right, and being able to do that. So, yeah, all of this is a process for sure, right? But we're building it while we're living in it at the same time. So it's pretty cool.
That is amazing. And I know what I know about y'all, like, I know we're in good hands just because I met y'all, I spent time with you. I see how much you care, your character, like,
for sure.
And that's why I'm happy that we do the podcast because now everyone gets to see it too. So really cool. All right, so we've been talking 43 minutes. The questions at the beginning usually go like 15.
Yeah. My bad.
No, it's not you. Like, you're an amazing person. Like, you're very easy to talk to.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. Like, those are the best conversations.
Yeah.
But here's what we're going to go over. We're going to go over your background because I just want folks, including myself,
sure,
just to know, where you grew up, what your values were, and how you got to this high level that you're at now. Because I know it wasn't easy.
Sure, yeah.
And then PME that you're on, that is info that you have insight on.
Sure. Yeah.
I see y'all hitting about it. Oh, you're going to see, this is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
This is going to blow your mind. I'm like, okay, but now I got someone that's going to tell me a little more. And then leadership is loneliness, something that you talked about today with Team Eglin. So let's start with your background.
Yeah, man. So, I was an airman for 20 years, right? And I did not grow up with the military as something I thought as an option, right? So I was born in South Carolina, grew up in Dallas, moved back to South Carolina, was going to school for a couple years, and I say that the Air Force found me, right? And I joined the Air Force. I enlisted into the Air Force. People have said this before. I enlisted in this year, but I didn't join until that. But that's true for me. I enlisted in 2000. I didn't join the Air Force till probably 2013, right? Like, I was just in it. I was like every young staff sergeant, tech sergeant overseas, just living life. It is what it is. And then I had an amazing supervisor who was a civilian, actually, invest in me and empower me.
He was a civilian?
He was a civilian.
Wow.
Yeah. And Al Quimby. And he invested in me, and he was like, you're going to be the guy, right? And it was like project management. We were in Osan, and he was just giving me all these projects and stuff, multi-million-dollar projects. We were building a second runway. We were building a new air traffic control tower, building a new DASR radar. And I didn't know about any of this stuff. And he just took me under his wing, was like, yep, you're running point. You got it. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm a tech sergeant. I'm like,
when you have someone that believes in you,
that's right,
man,
100%.
And you got, and they know just how to challenge you.
That's right.
Right, like they know just the cusp.
That's right.
Of like where to let you come in and use your creative control now.
That's right.
It's amazing.
That's right. And that year was a turning point because I was like, man, I love this, right? I love this feeling, right? And I went from there, and that was actually PCS to Colorado Springs. And that was my first taste of space, right?
Right.
50th Space Wing. And it was cool. I had a lot of A lot of good times. It was ups and downs. But it was my first taste of space. And there was things that I loved about the community. There was things I didn't love about the community. Right. It was very different than how I had grown up in the Air Force. Right. And not that it was wrong. It was just different. Right. And so later, I go through the whole trial. I kind of went through as a senior master sergeant, doing all that type of stuff. The opportunity came right at the same time, join the Space Force. Right. Wasn't sure if it was something I wanted to do. I'll be honest. I spoke to some senior leaders. Our current SIMSIF, Chief Invaluable, was somebody that I had spoken to, and a couple other general officers. And I felt like, hey, you know, after talking to my wife and the family, like, hey, this is going to be the right thing, right, for me. So I decided to cross on over. And it's just been running and sprinting ever since.
Wow.
You know, I would say the position that I'm currently in as the Chief of Enlisted Force Development for the Space Force, was essentially a startup company that's defining things, right, and looking at problems differently like than any other military entity ever has. It's really my dream job. It is, because it's the perfect match, right, to what I think my strengths and skills are, right? I get to go to work every day and think and be in deep thought and not have the answer and have to really think through the hard stuff, right? And not just pull the easy lever every time, right? And I love it. I legitimately love it. And it's making a difference, right? And I actually get to see things go into policy that I wrote.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean? I mean,
how cool is
they corrected my misspellings and all that. You know what I mean?
That's what execs are for.
That's
I was one. Why do you think I was looking at your bio? It's just natural to me.
Sure.
I'm like, let's scan this.
Yeah. That's right.
It's
that's
a team
right.
effort.
No, 100%.
So it sounds like you're fulfilled. You're very fulfilled. A lot of the things that you appreciate.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that get you fired up, that challenge you.
No.
I mean, I'd like to think that there's just certain things in life where you're just at the right place at the right time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's different paths we can take, but I'm a true believer in there's one righteous path.
Yeah.
Right? And the more you stick to that righteous path, the more likely you're going to end up doing your purpose.
So check this out. Speaking of timing, and everything happens for a reason. So I didn't make chief my first look. I was in the gray zone. So I was the 0.5, away. If I would have made it, I wouldn't have joined the Space Force.
Wow.
Because my wife, who's a sergeant major in the Army, there was nothing the Space Force could align at the time with her career field and mine. Right? And so I was literally waiting for chief results to come out, because I'd already known the answer. Hey, if I make chief, I can't join the Space Force. We won't be together.
Wow.
Right? And so I was literally waiting on chief results to determine if I was going to join the Space Force or not. And then chief results came out, and I was disappointed, you know what I mean, of course.
Right.
But then it was like, oh, but now I get to join the Space Force. Oh, okay, that's a pretty cool constellation, right?
Right.
And everything happens, you know what I mean, for a reason. And so it was a blessing. It was legitimately a blessing.
The delay created your path.
That's right.
Right. It's hard to see it in the moment.
Yeah.
But it is really a true thing. And for me, that was my opportunity at Honor Guard, and I was going for master. It makes it more tough when like the people you came up with, you start like killing it.
Sure.
And you're am I doing something wrong?
Yeah.
But in reality, it's different career fields, different like who knows?
That's right.
Right. It's just different situations.
That's right.
And it all starts to even out anyways in the long run, right?
That's right.
So it's a silly thing to like even get frustrated with.
Yeah.
But at the time I was like, I think I made it master my fourth try. I made tech my first try. So I was like, I got this.
Yeah.
And then year after year, I was just getting more ticked off.
Yeah.
But for me, that was just coming to terms with like where my shortfalls really were.
Yeah.
And am I in this for the right reason? Am I doing this for the right reason?
Right.
It was a very hard thing to face.
That's right.
And I was the exec for Colonel Henderson, med group level exec. Love Colonel Henderson. She's a doctor, incredible woman. And we got this new SEL named Chief Robbins. I'm kind of laughing now because I just butted heads with this guy.
Yeah.
I was this cocky little tech sergeant thinking I was like, well, and he's like, who are you? Like I was like nothing to him, right?
Yeah.
and I just could not impress this dude.
Yeah.
Because I worked for him too.
Yeah, sure.
And so I kind of did have this like wall up, you know.
Yeah.
And when I didn't make it that last time, I just had to come to terms with like, man, I'm doing this wrong.
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Like I feel like I'm killing it, but clearly something is wrong, and I need to ask. I knew I needed to, in my heart, I needed to ask this guy, what am I doing wrong? And it took a lot for me to do that. But I'll tell you what, that changed my whole life.
That's right.
Because he saw that, like, we had a real heart-to-heart.
That's right.
And because of that, he took me on a TDY that, like, opened my eyes to the medical community, like something I should have, you know, a tech sergeant normally doesn't get to see.
Sure.
So it took me under his wing, and then he got me the honor guard gig. He went out of his way to vouch for me.
Yeah.
I became a 12 Outstanding Airman of the Year.
Yeah.
I met Chief Bass. I met Chief Melvina Smith. Like, I got, like, I wouldn't be talking to you today. Yeah. Literally, had I not had that one conversation.
That's right.
Isn't that wild?
It is.
And then all those failures felt like silly because had I made it, let's just say I made it while I was at cocky tech sergeant. Yeah. Would I really be as successful now?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
You know, and, you know, we see them as failures at the time.
Right.
But you didn't fail at anything.
Right.
You know, like you didn't.
I didn't get an F.
That's right. You didn't fail. You didn't. No one died. You didn't, you know, get put on punishment, right? You just didn't get a carrot that you wanted.
Right.
Right? And that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with being disappointed in that, right? But everything happens for a reason. Now, saying everything happens for a reason doesn't resonate with everybody, right? Especially when you don't get the carrot, right? But even when I look at my career, man, there's probably a dozen inflection points to where if I would have did this instead of this, I wouldn't be here, right? And first of all, everything has led me to here, right? But there's probably a dozen that I can think of very easily where I wouldn't have ended up in the Space Force, or I wouldn't have done this, or I wouldn't have met my wife, or I wouldn't have, right? Like everything has happened for a reason, right? Like we're all just the sum of all of our yesterdays, right? And so, you know, you just got to take it as it comes. You know, it's okay.
Right. As long as you know you're sticking to your righteous path.
Yeah.
Because there's folks that lose their life every day to drugs.
Right. That's right.
And in their own life. Like,
that's right.
You can fall off that path.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying there's the best you.
Yeah.
And you got to stay on that path as best you can by doing right by yourself.
That's right.
And taking care of the people around you. And you'll stay, and it'll work out in the end.
Yeah. 100%.
You just got to have faith.
100%.
So last question on your background. How did you meet your wife?
So we were both stationed in Japan.
Which base in Japan?
Camp Zama. It's an army base.
Okay. What part of Japan?
So it's south of Tokyo.
Okay. I was at Kadena.
Okay.
So that's what I was asking.
Yep. So it's south of Tokyo. And it was a small army base, right? Okay. And one of my frat brothers had actually introduced us the night before, right? But I was, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. Kept going. Then the next day I was going to go check the centralized mailbox, like it was, you know, one mailbox on post. And I saw her walking, you know what I mean? She had all this heavy army stuff on, so I offered her a ride. She rejected it at first. I followed back up, you know.
You came back around?
Well, I didn't come back around. I was just like, hey, are you sure? And then she was like, oh, yeah, you know, use a ride. And then we became friends, and then, you know, the rest is kind of history. But yeah, it literally just kind of happened like that, right? Just being overseas, saw her, and it worked out.
Did you think that would be your wife at that moment?
Not at that moment, right?
When I saw my wife, I was like, "That's my wife."
Yeah. I didn't think, oh, that's going to be my wife at that moment. Mm-hmm. But when I saw her, I was like, oh.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get you to say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. yeah. I was like, well, hold on now. And then of course, a few months later, I was like, oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have how many children now?
6.
You have 6 children.
6 together. Yeah.
You know, what has what's been some of the highlights of your marriage and having 6 children? Like,
man, yeah, everything, and it's every day is a new adventure, right. And it's funny because we tell people, oh yeah, we have 6 children, right? And of course they ask, well, how do you do it? Do you have a nanny? Do you have a maid? And we're like, no, not even close, right? And they ask us how we do it, and we just do it, right? Like we just do it. You know, there's no There's no blueprint. There's no manual, right? Like raising one child is still a complex task, right? Raising 6 children isn't more complex. It's harder there's now 6 schedules, 6 personalities, right? But it's just as complex, right? But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, you made your own tribe.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And when you have your kids and like they're like little clones of you and your spouse, it's a special thing.
First of all, our kids are exact clones of us. They are hilarious, and they're all their own little.
You're kind of talking to yourself. You're kind of raising yourself.
That's right.
Aren't you, in a way?
These are things that me and my wife talk about kind of all the time, right? Because we'll see them do something, right? And of course, we do she gets that from you, or he gets that from you, right? But when we look at them, we just look at them, just laugh, and because they're just amazing little versions of ourselves. And then our kids, it's funny because we've got 6 of them, so we've seen them all at different ages, and it's like we've made the same child 6 times, right? Because there's times we'll look back and I'll be like, oh, that's clearly, our 6-year-old, and no, it's our 2-year-old. And I was like, oh my goodness, they look exactly the same, right?
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty dope.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's fun. Dope. It's such a blast. And then every time they grow, they go through different stages, different things they pay attention to, different questions that pop in their head.
Oh yeah.
And loving yourself, I think, ties into raising your kids too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they are you.
That's right.
And if you don't love yourself,
that's right.
I really don't see a great. That's why I waited to have kids.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I just knew I wasn't ready. You know? So I'm 39 and I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and on my street at senior NCOs, that's like the youngest kids on the block.
Sure. Yeah. That's. I mean, we got 2-year-old.
That's
wild. Actually, she's not even 2. Yeah. She'll be 2 in May.
That's amazing. Like you don't see anyone in your position having kids at all. Like, yet alone 6 and a 2-year-old.
Well, it's also in my wife's position, right? Like, she's a sergeant major in the Army.
Wow.
Right. And I mean, she's got a good thing going, right? I mean, she's doing phenomenal. She's had a phenomenal career, right? And so, you don't see a lot of sergeant majors with almost 2-year-olds, right? Let alone 6 kids.
And she had to birth them.
That's right.
That's a little different.
She had it way harder than I did.
It's a little different for them.
And it's funny because that's important too. Like we look at men. And we'll say, "Oh man, you got 6 kids, right?" And it's a badge of honor. And sometimes we'll look at women, and we don't always treat it that way. Right. But like, she had to birth 6 children.
Right.
She has a much larger badge of honor, than I do. And so, and she's an amazing mom and an amazing wife. And those things are hard. Though being an amazing parent and spouse is way harder.
It's the hardest thing in the world.
That's right. It's way harder than being an amazing chief or master sergeant or captain or whatever, like way harder, right? Because the ramifications of you not getting that right are way more grave and serious.
Right.
Right.
And they're a part of your life forever.
And they're a part of my life. Like, I certainly want my peers and teammates that I work with to like me and respect, right? But I need that for my family.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's different. You know what I mean? So yeah, being a parent and being a spouse, those are the hardest jobs in the world.
They are.
No doubt about it.
To get those right, that takes the most sacrifice.
That's right.
That's right. It. Man, it's amazing. What's our time check? I don't have my watch on me. I know this place closes at 6.
5:27.
All right. Yeah. That's our time. That's our time limit.
Yeah.
And they warn me again. They're like, man, don't, please.
Yeah.
Because they'll come out and start mopping, start hitting your chair. And I'm like, okay, I got it, man. I got it. All right. Second topic, PME.
Yeah.
Always been a part of our military life. Yeah. Always will be.
Yep.
And it needs to evolve at some point, right? You got new minds, new worlds.
Yeah.
New challenges.
Sure, yeah,
so you know a little bit about where we're going with that, and I was hoping you could kind of spill the beans a little bit.
Yeah. So there's certainly some things I can tell you. Here's what I will tell you. This is what I've learned.
Okay.
Every service does PME completely different.
Oh, wow.
Completely different.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know that it's good or bad. I think it's just what each service needs.
Okay.
Right? When we talk about, I'm specifically talking about enlisted PME.
Right.
Officer PME is congressionally mandated.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's like between bases. They seems
well.
It's like
So
I manage this base.
Yeah, they got ILE, SLE. Like they have the congressional mandated levels of PME that they have to accomplish.
It's like mapped out.
That's right. For the enlisted, it's not at all. So the way the Marine Corps does it is completely different than the way the Navy does it, and so on and so forth.
Gotcha, because it doesn't have that mandate.
That's
There's a little more freedom to mold it.
That's right, because you're building it for your service, right? There's also way more enlisted than there are officers, right? Mm-hmm. And so because of that, you also have to recognize, well, what's the role of the enlisted versus the role of the officers, right? And so how we develop it does matter, right? So when we stood up the Space Force, one of the things we had to very quickly realize is that we're not building airmen.
That's a hard thing to say.
That's right. Especially
You've been
as a
saying
former
it your
airman.
whole life. Like,
that's right.
Your whole adult
For 20
life.
years, that's what I was doing. I was
Right.
building airmen. We're not building airmen. Like, don't forget, like, we've got former soldiers, sailors, Marines, and organic guardians. That we're the only service that they've known.
Yeah, there's nothing else like that if you think about it.
Right? So we're not building airmen. So we had to. It was an imperative for us to change the way we educate and train our guardians, because, well, if you use an Air Force, right, equation, you're going to get an Air Force solution. And we didn't necessarily. It's nothing wrong with the Air Force. Again, I was an airman for 20 years, but the Space Force needs guardians.
Right. And what does that look like?
What does that look like? Our ingredients are just different. It's not better. It's just different. Right. So we had to create an enlisted experience in our PME that's different, but that's right for us. Right. None of this is to knock any other services model. It works for them, and it's phenomenal, and it's great. For us, though, we recognize that because of the limitations that we have and how many academic days that we can spend, we wanted to ensure that we created an experience, a true guardian experience, right?
Yeah, this is your chance to really, shake it up.
That's right. That's right.
It kind of reminds me of Phoenix, Arizona. They took all the lessons learned of highways and roads, and if you notice, it's totally different layout there because they took all the lessons learned from their prior experience and what went wrong with these other ways they built, and they created a much more efficient road system.
I don't know that.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Luke?
No. I've been to Scottsdale, but haven't been to Luke.
Oh, so you've been to the rich part.
Yeah.
But if you look at a map of that.
Yeah.
Look at a map of the housing. Look at the map at Sun City. They took all the lessons learned, and they had a chance to get it right, and they freaking nailed it.
And so it'd be silly if we didn't do the same thing.
Right.
Right.
But it's easy to say, I know what I did before. That worked. Can we do that? It's easier to do that than to.
Way easier.
Yeah.
Way easier. And a lot of times when you default to easier, you get it wrong.
Oh, dang.
Right? Because we're not trying to do easier.
Right.
We're trying to do what's best for us.
Absolutely.
So what we've done is we've now created a fellowship-based model. Right? We've created a different modality in that we want it to be an experience. So it's not necessarily about the academic rigor or what will you know or define the 6 whatever. It's not that. It's a fellowship in that the experiences that you have is your takeaway. So, for example, we know that in 25 academic days, I can only teach you so much, right? If I try to teach you 50 things, you'll know 0 things, right?
So you got to get a balance in that.
Well, it's not that. It's we want to give you depth where it matters. And if we decide to have breadth, then it's really an introduction to the things we want you to know, learn, understand, right? But here's kind of how we're defining our enlisted education system. We're essentially trying to influence the way you think by changing the way you feel. Maya Angelou has a great quote, right? You'll forget what I say, you'll forget what I do, but you'll never forget how I made you feel. And
which is what you provided us this morning.
That's right.
You even kind of said that. You're like, you're not going to remember exactly what I said today.
But you'll remember how you felt.
Right.
Right? So we want to create that. And there's different modalities. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag and how, but there's different ways that we're planning on doing that by creating a feeling, for one, of connection, of team, right?
That's interesting.
In different ways that we're going to do that. And so we're going to bring in great speakers, but it's not speakers in the sense of, hey, here's Leadership 101. It's from a standpoint of, hey, here's what I learned, right? Here's where I messed up, right? Here's so on and so forth. If we're going to talk about joint war fighting, like I can give you the principles of joint war fighting. I can give JP 5.0, and we can do all that, sure. Or we can war game it. I can make you experience what it is to be in that type of. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's all about the experiential learning, and this will be iterative, right? So our first iteration will be what used to be called NCOA. We're calling it Vossler Fellowship 2. The first one will be March 18th. That'll be the first cohort, right? That'll go through. But the real win is we're creating what we call an alumni network, right? So when you are inducted into the alumni network after you complete the fellowship, right? You're an alum of the fellowship. The intent is that you pour back in to the fellowship. Like you either believe that you're a great teammate or you're not, right? And so if you're struggling through the fellowship, why wouldn't you reach out to someone in the alumni?
Absolutely.
Right? And why wouldn't someone in the alumni reach out to you? Right? There's no competition. So we got rid of PME awards. There's no PME awards. None. Not a single one. There's no Commandant's Award. There's no nothing. We talked through and we experimented. We thought, hey, maybe we should have like academia, like magna cum laude or cum laude. No, get rid of all of it, right? Because we want you to be immersed in the experience, and those things can be, to some, distractors, right? This isn't a knock on any institution that does them, right? But for us, we didn't feel like it fit into our model,
right?
So we got rid of it. We changed the name of our PME instructors to PME facilitators.
Ooh.
Right? And it's not just a name change, it's a modality change, right? Their job is to facilitate, not necessarily be an expert on curriculum, right? It's to be able to give them the techniques and skills that they need to be able to navigate complex and difficult conversations and topics, right? So it's going to be a game changer. It's going to be different.
I can see your
iterate.
Like fingerprints all over this already. Like,
sure.
like everything I know about you from this talk, from this morning, from what I see online, I see you in this, like your philosophy, your connectedness, like empowering people. Like I'm getting all of that.
Yeah. But here's what I'll say though. Whatever has been built, our team did that. The Vossler team, the team at our schoolhouse built it. I didn't build it. They built it, right? We gave them some ideas, some left and rights, right? Hey, here's some things. We gave them some resources, right? Hey, here's some people that can help you with design thinking, think outside the box. But they built it.
And what you're describing, are you describing like what we would call ALS or tech school, or like what part?
So this would be what we have built would be equivalent to NCOA and senior NCOA.
Okay.
Right. Now we will at some point in time address, ALS. But right now Guardians still attend ALS, right? But what we've built is essentially the replacement or equivalency to NCOA, senior NCOA.
Gotcha. Okay, I just had to ask that.
No, absolutely.
Didn't know like what stage are we talking about in there. But it sounds insanely creative, like to the point where I want to go through it. Like
I'd love for you to go through it.
At some point. I don't know how it's going to happen. I want to go. I want to experience this myself. So I can, share it with the rest of the world. But I'm very intrigued.
As a measure of effectiveness, like let's just be honest, if we want it to be so great for our guardians that every other service is banging down our door trying to get a seat, right? And it's not because what we have is better. It's different.
Right.
It's better for us.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we're trying to create something that works for our ecosystem, and right now we think this is it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can I get a time check? Because I see
5:37.
Post that.
Yeah.
This is a big topic too.
Yeah.
But let's try to
cover it pretty quickly.
Let's try to do a quick version of leadership is loneliness.
Yeah. So leadership in of itself, and I said it this morning, right? I have a very basic definition of what a leader is.
Right.
And I think it's just someone that people willingly follow. Simple as that. Willingly follow. Willingly. Not because you're in charge or because someone's forced, like someone that people willingly follow. That's the most authentic definition of a leader, in my opinion. True leadership is also hard. Because if it's easy, it shouldn't get to you. I don't need someone to lead me for easy things, right? Mm-hmm. So because it's hard, it can be difficult, and it means that sometimes you have to do what's right for the team, whether the team realizes it or not. And so sometimes you can wind up putting yourself on an island. Sometimes you have to go against the grain.
That's why I like courageous leadership.
Oh, that's right.
You have to be courageous.
100%.
It takes a level of courage.
That's right.
To do it.
That's right. Having courage means that you're about to face adversity. You don't need courage to do easy things.
Right.
Right?
This is true.
That's right. To have courage means you're about to face something arduous. And that can be lonely.
It can be. Especially if it's not like the popular thing. It's the right thing, but it might not be the popular thing. And you're the face of that not popular thing right now.
That's right. I'll be honest with you. Like there's a lot of times where leaders are trying to be so popular and so liked that you wind up being, one, an unauthentic version of yourself. Two, not actually leading.
Right.
Just because you're out front doesn't mean you're actually leading.
Right.
Like you've seen like the picture of like the wolves, right, in the line, right, and they got the wolf in the front, but the actual leader of the pack is in the back.
Watching their back. Right.
And that's not to knock, any leader. Everyone has their own style. I'm not saying that mine is the most right. All I'm saying is that true leadership can absolutely be lonely. Now, that doesn't mean that you're alone. Those are two different things.
Right.
Right? You can be surrounded by a team, a supportive team, and leadership can still be lonely because you still have to make the hard decision. Yeah. You still have to do the hard thing. And if it's your decision to make, it's your decision to make. Right? Any senior leader or any leader at any level that I've advised, I've made that very clear. Hey, listen, sir, man, you got to make this decision. I give you all the advice, all the facts, my perspectives, but this is your decision to make. And I'm going to support you either way. That's right. I'm going to support you either way. That's a lonely place to be.
It is.
Right?
Scary.
It's scary.
Especially when the authority, the impact is, the waves of it is tremendous.
That's right. But it doesn't negate the fact that you still got to make the decision.
It doesn't. That's what you're paid to be there for.
That's right. Make the decision and go.
That's why you signed up. That's responsibility. Yeah. That when you break that word down.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Response from your ability.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. That's amazing. And it really ties into this morning.
Yeah.
If you're okay with it, I can play that entire talk on this episode following this part.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it'd be cool to tie it in, since we mentioned it so much, to tie it into the end.
Yeah.
But I've never met anyone like you. That's a huge compliment.
I appreciate it.
I've said that to very few people. And I think the people that impact me the most, and it started with Chief Wright and Manny Pinheiro.
Yeah.
Where their literal presence gives me hope.
Yeah.
Like seeing them show up gives me a sense of hope.
Yeah.
I've never felt that in my life until I started meeting them and then folks like yourself. Yeah. And it's the biggest compliment that I can ever give someone.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for all your time coming out here.
Oh, yeah.
Conversation after conversation after conversation, because, you just bring so much to the table.
I appreciate it.
And you give us hope. At the end of the day, you give us that sense of hope and purpose. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us here at Eglin and on the Hero Front podcast.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity, man.
It finally happened, man.
I know, right?
And now we need to do part 2 with our other guests.
That's right.
Chief Wright, Todd Simmons.
We'll make it happen.
Could you imagine? I don't even know what y'all. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna listen.
Yeah. It'll be good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to say anything. I'm in learning mode, listening mode, because I don't know what's going to happen with that. But I am excited about it because you all have such, specific and unique observations of the world.
Yeah.
But y'all are so close and great friends.
Yeah.
I'm just blessed to be even like a part of that in any way. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
And now everyone else is going to get to know you too out there. Yeah. And it's a blessing, man. It really is to know you. So thank you for all your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
So this is the hero's journey of Abi Scott, and we're out.